So coming and sitting back against the wall so that you've got some support. And how you place your legs will really depend on what's happening in your hips. If you're more than 34 weeks pregnant, we don't recommend crossing your legs anymore because it restricts the flow of your blood, which after 34 weeks of pregnancy is already fairly restricted. So you might instead want to take the legs either out wide or just bring them into a soft diamond shape. So there's no compression in the calf muscles. If you've got any hip pain, you might want to bring the soles of your feet together and just encourage the hips to loosen. So that can be another option. If you've got any pain around the pubic area, symphysis pubis dysfunction, which again is quite common in pregnancy, you might not want to take the legs into any wide position. Instead, you might want to bring the legs out in front. So choose any of those positions that feels right for you. And it needs to be comfortable. And then once you've done that, using the wall to support you. So if possible, you want to have the back of your pelvis against the wall and your shoulders against the wall. And then just kind of offer yourself into the wall. So if your pelvis is too far back, you're going to be kind of rounding the back to get the shoulder blades on, which is why you need to get the back of the pelvis as flush up against the wall as you can. It may mean that you lift your cushion slightly up so it's in your lumbar so that you can shuffle back a little bit more. And once you do that, there'll be a point when you go, oh yeah, that's nice, that's comfortable. Okay, and then from here, you're just going to close your eyes. And you can rest your hands in a couple of locations depending on how your shoulders feel. So the first place is to just rest your hands over your belly. And this allows you to connect in with your baby. And just being aware of movements. Be aware of sensations. And also be aware of stillness. So babies move sort of every 20 to 40 minutes or so, and then they have a resting period. So they're not always active. So they might be in a resting phase at the moment, or they may be in full-on active mode. And just settling down into your breath, becoming aware of the feeling of your breath. Feel the sensation of your breath as it moves in through your nose. And then as you settle down into a comfortable rhythm with your breath, I'd like to invite you to work with ocean breath or Ujjayi breath. So this is a breath control practice that we use a lot in yoga. And we create it by making a slight restriction around our throat. And it's very similar to the restriction that you would make if you were pretending to snore, or in fact if you were actually snoring. It's a fairly soft restriction. So the breath should still feel like it's flowing smoothly. But you might now have a little bit of a restriction which slows the breath down. And one of the aims of of yogic breathing, which is a major part of yoga, the breathing. It's called pranayama, the extension of life force energy. And one of its aims is to slow the breath down. But not just to make it slower, but to make it longer and bigger. And so by using this ocean breath, or ujjayi breath, it gives us the opportunity to do exactly that. It slows the breath down. And when the breath is slow, the mind is also slowed down. So it's a very good technique for calming down a fractious mind. It also has the capacity to bring additional oxygen into our blood flow. So when we breathe more consciously, which we are doing with our ocean breath, it brings a higher proportion of air into the lungs. And so one of the things that sometimes happens when we work with conscious breathing is that we feel a little bit more awake. It reduces our fatigue. So we're going to work with a particular calming breathwork practice to begin our session today. So this practice is going to involve inhaling exactly as you are, using the ujjayi practice, the ocean breath. But every time you breathe out, you're going to block off one of your nostrils and you're going to relax the contraction around your throat. So it's a combination of alternate nostril breathing and the ocean breath. So I'll guide you through the first few rounds. So we begin with an inhalation, ujjayi, throat contracted. And then as you breathe out, you're going to block off your right nostril and just breathe out through the left nostril, but without any constriction around your throat, because you've already created the restriction around the nose. Once that breath is finished, you can relax your hand and breathe in again, using the throat restriction of ocean breath. And then as you breathe out, you're going to block off your left nostril and breathe out naturally through the right nostril. And then same thing again, inhaling. It's quite nice to relax the arm in between because it can get a little tired. And then exhaling just through the left nostril, so blocking off the right, but remembering to let go of the throat. And then inhaling, restrict the throat again. And exhaling, blocking off the left nostril, breathing out through the right. And you're just going to carry on in that same way. So find your own rhythm. Inhaling through both nostrils with that gentle restriction in the throat. And then breathing out through single nostrils. And if you kind of get confused and you forget which one you've just done, it's okay. Just pick it up wherever you feel that you are. I'm going to continue to work in this same way. But I'm going to invite you to introduce some counting now as well. And this is moving now into the realm of meditation because you have to concentrate and place your mind somewhere. So the next time you breathe in, I want you to just count the in-breath. Try and keep a nice measured space, and it doesn't matter what the count is, you're not going to put any particular aim. And then as you breathe out, you count the out-breath. And again, there's no aim, no goal. You're just using the counting as a mechanism to place the mind. And you do the same on, on the other side. You might find that your inhale count is different to your exhale count. And you might also find that the exhale count, because you're doing 2 separate nostrils, is different between those 2 sides as well, because ordinarily one nostril is always slightly more blocked than the other one. It's a natural phenomenon. And so you might find that you've got a variety of counts. So I'm just going to do a few more rounds. And what you might notice is actually that the counts get a little longer. So as you settle into this practice and the slower, longer breaths become more familiar, you might find that you can actually breathe in for longer, breathe out for longer. So the next time you breathe out through your left nostril, you can let go of the counting. And then you can also let go of the alternate nostril breath. So the next time you breathe out through the left nostril, you can relax the hand down. And you can also let go of the Ujjayi breath. And just letting go of everything. And then noticing how you feel. So being aware of the qualities that have come from that practice. And then you can gently open the eyes. Okay, so even doing something like that for a few minutes has that capacity to overcome fatigue and tiredness, or even to help you sleep. So if you're not sleeping at night, then sitting up in bed and doing that for 5 minutes might help you to get back to sleep, you know, if you're finding it difficult to get back to sleep, or just doing it in the middle of the day. So if you can't have a nap, you could sit at your desk and do that for 5 minutes. Okay, so if you could stretch your legs out, and then just give it a little bit of a bounce, a little bit of a waft from side to side. And then you're going to bring the right leg and place it to the inside of your thigh. Now, is that okay for those with SPD? Does that feel alright? Okay. Is that alright for you, Katie?
Yeah, it's still really sore.
On the coccyx? Yeah. I wonder if you're just going to be stuck with that now.
I think so. It comes and goes, but yeah.
Yeah. Have you seen like a chiro or an osteo?
No, I was trying to wait, but I don't think I can hold out with the
Yeah. I know a really good one up in Sward. He's a bloke, but I send so many pregnant women to him.
I was going to try the one at Lichfield, the one by the A38.
Oh, it's one of the A38?
Yeah, by the new estate.
Okay.
Just as you come off, it's back on the road.
Okay. Yeah, there was one in Rotten Row. There was one there. There's some quite good osteos in there as well. It's opposite Green Hill. Where do you live?
Yoxham.
Okay. Yeah, it might be worth, because they might be able to do something, and if they can just make you comfortable, that's just one less thing. Okay, so you're going to place your hands on your knees. Keep that nice uprightness through the spine. And throughout your pregnancy, one of the things that you can think about is elevation. So there's a world of difference that happens in a lot of our physiology if we collapse and we sink our rib cage down towards our pelvis. gives our baby less room, so then they kick us more, but also it reduces our capacity to breathe deeply. So if you just lift your rib cage lightly away from your baby, you feel that your abs getting a little bit of a workout, and you have a bit more space for you, for your baby, and your lungs. So you can remember to just have that little bit of elevation through the rib cage as and when you remember. So we're going to use a birthing breath. So the Ujjayi breath is one of the birthing breaths that we use. It's got that lovely calming element to it, and it helps to keep the mind focused. This next one, if you're new today, is a good one for power and energy and strength. So this is like the warrior breath. So if you're in labour and you really want to tap into some warrior energy, this is the one to do. So it's the same kind of sensation as the ocean breath, but you vocalize it. So I call it the ha breath. So you've still got that contraction around the throat, but it's voiced. It's like a silent roar. So it does have that quality of I could do this. So it's a good one to do if you're kind of feeling that I can't do this. You do the ha breath. Oh, I can. So on the in breath, the right knee is going to lift up, just a normal breath, or you can use Ujjayi if you want. And then on that exhale, the knee's going to drop down. Okay? So inhaling, knee rises. Then we're going to add some arms. So on the inhale, the arms are going to raise up, the knee is going to raise up. And on the out breath, palms come together, knee drops down, ha breath, and the hands come all the way down. If you want to connect with your baby, you can also give your baby a little bit of a stroke at the end. And then we can do the same. So we inhale, arms out to the sides, ribs elevate even more, making more space, and then ha breath, knee drops, hands come all the way down, and then if you've got any little breath left, it'll stroke for your baby. And just do that a few more times. So it's a nice one to loosen the hips. So again, hips very problematic, but they do suffer a lot in pregnancy. So it's one of the go-to things everywhere. Lower backs and hips, probably the two parts of the body that really suffer the most. So this is a nice warm up for the right hip. A little warm up for the shoulders, and again just this preparation with the breath for labour. Okay, and then you can just release that leg out. You might want to roll them again from side to side. And then you're going to bring the left leg in this time. The right leg is straight. And then you're going to do the same thing again. So inhaling, the knee rises, normal breath. And then with that ha breath, the hands come down, the knee drops down. And if you've got a little bit left, you can just stroke. And last time. And then gently bringing that leg up. And again, you might want to do some windscreen wiping or just bouncing the legs up and down. So you might want to shimmy a little bit away from the wall for this next one. You don't have to, but it might restrict you a little bit because we're going to kind of go from side to side. So you might find it easier to not be connected to the wall. I'm going to keep the legs together, but what I would suggest is anybody with SPD, symphysis pubis dysfunction, And if you've never heard of it, it means you haven't got it. So that's a good sign if you haven't heard of it. Or if you just feel that your pelvis isn't feeling very strong today, what you can do, I mean this is too thin, but you can use your block or your brick, place it between your thighs and grip. So you're working the adductor muscles, a little bit of the glutes, a little bit of the outside pelvic muscles, and you'll just keep that going as well. So you're doing some extra muscular work in the hips. So that's an option. And we're going to bring our hands down to the ground. So we're going to start, actually we're not going to take the hands to the ground, we're going to take them out to the sides. And then you're just going to reach over to one side. And then reach over to the other side. I'm going to start with these just very gentle movements, almost like the wings of a bird. And just easing yourself over. And then you can start to make these movements get a little bit bigger. Almost as if you're reaching your rib cage up and away. So the movement is coming from your rib cage, not from your shoulders. So try and keep your shoulders nice and relaxed. But the movement with the ribs is up and over. And so it's all coming from here. And so what we're aiming to do is make space. And then you might be able to drop the hand to the floor. And then you can paint the sky with the other hand. And again, the movement is coming from the side of the body. So you're making space between your side rib and your side hip. And it's quite nice to do side bends when you're pregnant. So just going to do a few more. So you might find that you can get a little bit deeper now as your body warms up and the muscles begin to loosen. And you might even be able to get your elbow down. Now if you've got short arms, maybe not, but you might find that after a few repetitions that the elbow quite comfortably gets down and you can extend these side bending movements. And the next time you come up, you can just come back to stillness. So then we're going to take the legs wide. Again, if this isn't comfortable for you, if you've got your symphysis pubis, then don't do it. Are you all okay? Right. Push the heels away. And you're going to circle your belly around. And you can start slow. So as we did, start slow, start small. Just explore moving your belly around. And you might feel that stretch on the inner legs, the inner thighs. You might feel it in your hamstrings. You might even feel it in your lower back. Now if you're right up against the wall, you probably will need to come forwards a little bit, because now I'm just going to go a little bit backwards, not very much, but just enough for your abs to get a little bit of a workout. So, oh, what happened there?
Something.
Sciatica?
That sort of thing, yeah.
Has it gone down your bum?
It's just slightly across my bum. It's fine. I'll be alright.
Is it gone?
Yeah. Next one. Yes.
So, obviously we can't do a lot of ab work in pregnancy, and it's not recommended either, because if the abs are too tight, if your baby isn't in the right position, if it's upside down or transverse, well actually when I say upside down, right way up is the wrong way up, if that makes any sense. We want them upside down, we want them head down. If that happens and the abs are really tight, then it makes the available space for your baby to turn later on in pregnancy very difficult. So we want a little bit of give with the abdominal muscles, but we also want enough support there as well. So we don't want them to be really, really loose, because they are, of course, holding your baby and your organs there. So we're going to go the other way now. So start to rotate in the opposite direction and just see how far back can you go. So it doesn't have to be very far, but just enough to feel that little bit of a pull in the abs. So you're getting a little bit of work. And then we're going to start winding this in. So you're going to start to make the circles smaller and smaller. Until you go back to stillness. And then bring the hands on the floor in front of you. So this is a stretch for the lower back, but also a stretch for the hamstrings. So as you breathe out, you're just going to bow down, but you want to get the belly and the chest to move, not the head. And then you're going to ripple all the way back up. So if I go sideways, you can kind of see it a bit differently. So you want to sort of curl and undulate. So it's almost like a ribbon blowing in the breeze. So kind of undulating down. And then undulating up, so it kind of loosens the spine. So rather than just bending forwards like this, you just bend forwards like that and then bend up like this, you're just going to get a pain in the upper back. So you want to almost take the chest and the belly forwards and then draw it back. So chest and belly forward and then come back. So you get much more of an opening in the spine and an articulation in the spine. And one more, so you might find everything's loosening up. Now the more repetitions you do of anything, the looser everything becomes. And then you're just going to very gently gather the knees. And then what's quite nice is to bring the soles of your feet together here. So we've done this on one side at a time, and now we're doing them both together. But it's quite a nice release for the knees, and particularly the inner knees after doing that stretch. So just seeing how that feels coming into this position. Okay, so we're going to do a stretch for the outer hip. So shoelace pose. If you can bring the right leg up and over and take it round as far as it will go. So ideally you want the outer edge of your foot on the floor, so not the sole of your foot, the little toe edge of your foot on the floor. Now if it doesn't reach, what you can do is place a block underneath your foot. Okay, so that's one half. Now some of you will be able to do this and some of you maybe not. If you lean over towards the left side, see if the left leg will come underneath. Now, not everyone can do this. Sometimes the hips are just a bit too tight for that to be a possibility. So if you can't get them both under, it's absolutely fine to just do one. However, what you might find is that,
Just bear with me, I'll get there.
and if you sit on your cushion or your block and come up a little bit higher, so that's another thing. If you're almost there but not quite, if you, again, all my big blocks are under the camera, but with something that's the kind of that size, if you sit onto your block, it elevates the hips, which means the knees drop down a little bit more easily. So that's an option if you can't get them to come all the way round. Otherwise, you keep the underneath leg straight, but be careful of the hamstring because it's going to go into the left hamstring. So if you've got like a blanket or something there, Katie, just something squishy. Okay. Got coat or anything or no? Okay.
Blanket.
I think I'm fine.
Are you okay? Okay, I just don't want that underneath leg to be jipping your hamstrings. Okay, so what we're going to do on this side is a bunch of pelvic floor exercises. Really useful for pregnancy. So while we hold this stretch, it's really good stretch for the outside of the hips. As you breathe in, lift and squeeze your pelvic floor muscles. And as you breathe out, relax them. And then same thing again. Lift and squeeze as you breathe in. And then relax as you breathe out. Same again. And just keep going. So it's a nice slow repetition. So we're working the slow twitch muscles here, as well as passively stretching these outer the outer hip muscles. So a little bit of pelvic floor every day, tightening and then relaxing. So that you know the difference as well between tightening the pelvic floor and also relaxing them, because these muscles have to relax during labour. So you need to kind of feel how that is. What does it feel like when you relax your pelvic floor muscles? And then you can finish your pelvic floor. And then you're going to gently undo the legs. So as well as working on the hip flexors and the outside of your hips, you can just rock the knees from side to side. It also helps to stretch open the sacroiliac joints. Again, another part of the pelvis, the back of the pelvis. And this often gets mistaken for back pain. So a lot of women come to classes and say they've got back pain. And it's not the back, it's the pelvis. It's the sacroiliac joints, right at the base of the pelvis. And so that pose can help to loosen and stretch open the sacroiliac joint. Okay, so now the left leg goes over first. And if it is amenable, you rock onto your right side and bring the right leg under. And you can move the feet around as you wish. Sitting on a block or a cushion can be quite useful if you're not quite there. Okay, and now we're going to do a different movement. So we're going to work on the neck, and this is a perfect inroad into the parasympathetic nervous system. So it just looks on the outside like a really simplistic neck stretch, but it has a very profound and deep effect on the parasympathetic nervous system. So you're going to work with your breath. The next time you breathe out, just release your head around to the left side. And as you breathe in, bring the head back to the center. And then breathing out, release the head around to the right side. And breathing in, back to the center. And just do that 2 more times. So you use the out breath to make the movement, but you're not pulling the head around, you're just releasing it, so there's no effort. It's almost like the out breath is doing the work. So if you get any stiffness in your neck, these movements are really, really good to release them. And then the next time you turn the head to the right, bring the head back to the center. And then we're going to do side to side. So as you breathe out, right ear to right shoulder. And as you breathe in, back to center. Breathe out, left ear to left shoulder. And breathing in, back to the center. Just do that 2 more on each side. And again, it's almost like we're just letting it go. We're not trying to force the head to come into this position. We're actually relaxing the muscles and allowing these stretches to take shape rather than consciously putting the head in these positions. So the next time you bring the head back up to the center, as you breathe out, now drop your chin to your chest. And breathe in, bring the head back. Now this time when we exhale, you're just going to lift your chin. You're not going to arch your neck backwards, you're just going to lift your chin. And inhale, back to the center. And then same again, breathe out, head goes down. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, head goes up. Inhale, back to center. And then just one last time, chin down. So just going to finish lengthening the back of the neck. And then come up. Okay, now gently undo the legs. Also notice how that feels. So are you picking up that sort of gentle parasympathetic stimulation, that rest and relax branch of the nervous system? So you feel a little bit calmer, a little bit more relaxed. So the next time you take your legs all the way over, push up onto your hands and your knees. So another really good way of relaxing both yourself and your baby is using another one of these birthing breaths, which is the bee breath. So Bhramari is its Sanskrit name, or bee breath. So you need to make enough space between your knees for your belly to fit. So make sure that you can comfortably get back onto your heels and that there is enough space between your knees for your baby or babies to comfortably reside. You might want to bring the big toes together, even though the knees are wide, big toes together, so you've got a bit of stability. And then rise all the way back up. So we're going to go back onto the heels with our out breath. It's going to be a really nice stretch for the lower back, but we're also going to use this bee breath, which is just humming as you breathe out. It's very, very calming, both for yourself and your baby. So start by taking a breath in. As you breathe out, tuck your tailbone under, arch your spine to the ceiling, push your hands into the ground, and while all that is happening, slowly take your hips all the way back towards your heels. And then as you breathe in, push into your shins and rise all the way back up. And then same again, exhale, rounding, tucking, pushing into the hands, and at the same time, the hips are going to come all the way back. So you want to keep the back round as you head onto your heels. And that will mean that your lower back is really being lengthened. So now we're going to do the same thing, but humming as we go back. And just keep going in your own pace. So don't worry if you're the only one humming. It's actually quite nice to have like a wall of sound where you're all humming at different points, so that there's not just, you're not all just trying to keep time with each other, because you'd all have a different breath capacity. So there isn't going to be one length of breath or length of sound that is going to fit in with everybody else. So it's fine to not try to do that. Just take one more round. And then when you up this time, you can just tuck your toes under. And then you're going to walk your hands back towards your knees and let the knees come up off the floor. And then straighten the knees a little bit so that you can bring your heels on the floor. You're just going to dangle over the legs momentarily. So you might want to sway the hips from side to side. You might want to sway the shoulders and the head from side to side. And when you're ready to come up, bend the knees, push the feet into the floor, and uncurl slowly vertebrae by vertebrae. Okay, so giving a little jiggle to the whole body, so bouncing the heels up and down, maybe jiggling both. I'm just going to move the camera a little bit up. Too much? And then having the feet hip distance apart. So something to kind of measure every few weeks or so is where is your standing alignment? Because as you progress with your pregnancy, your pelvis is going to get pulled forwards. The bigger the bump, the more you're going to get pulled forwards and the more compression you're going to have in your lower back. So it's useful to just check in every few weeks, particularly if you've had a growth spurt, because that's when you can sometimes find that you're thrown off your center. And I mention this a lot in the classes, but babies don't grow like this. They don't grow in a nice smooth line. They do nothing, 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 big birth, big spurt, nothing, 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 big spurt. And they do this in the womb and outside as well. So those of you that have got children already will recognise that. You think they're not growing, and then all of a sudden, oh my God, because they have what they call a growth spurt. And this is what happens inside as well. Which is why then you often get pains, because your body's trying to catch up, stretching from this sudden growth of your baby inside. So it's useful to check, is your weight evenly balanced through all the four corners of your feet? So you want to make sure the weight is in the balls of your feet and the heels. So you're just going to rock gently. It doesn't have to be a big movement, but you want to get the heels onto the floor and then the balls of your feet onto the floor. So you're kind of spreading weight through the front to the back. And then you're going to kind of waft across, so instep to the outstep. Oh, it's nice when they start cracking. So just kind of wafting, so instep to the outstep. And then we're going to rise up. So as you breathe in, fix your gaze on the floor, come all the way onto the balls of your feet, and then bring the palms of your hands back into your heart as you land the heels all the way back down. And then same again, so rising up. And then dropping down. One more time. And then having spread the feet nicely, just see if you can stand with the feet fully balanced. So weight in the heels, weight in the balls of your feet, weight in the inner and outer edges. And also knees unlocked. So if you lock your knees, it tends to push the pelvis forward. So if you unlock the knees, the weight goes into the heels. And the common feature of over-rotating your pelvis is the weight is in the balls of your feet. So anytime you've got backache, lower backache, the chances are it's because all your weight is in the balls of your feet. So all you need to do is draw back into your heels. Pelvis will come into a neutral position and it'll stop the compression in the lower back. So that's a good one to do from time to time, just checking this balance. Okay, so now you're going to take the feet wide and just do some nice drifting movements from side to side. So just easing your weight from one side to the other. And then you're going to sweep the arms from side to side. So do this one quite frequently. It's a nice movement to do. And then we're going to change it a little bit. We're going to kind of come into a bit more of a pendulum movement. So you're going to sweep your arms all the way up to one side and just let the other leg straighten. So you're over to the bent side. So your weight is in the bent leg. And then you sweep through the middle like a pendulum. And then up to the other side. So again, the weight now is in the other side. The other leg is straight. And you're just going to keep doing this. So sweeping across to one side, reaching up. And then sweeping around to the other side. And just keep going. And then next time you come to the centre, you can just straighten both legs. Now bring your toes in, bring your heels in until you are all the way back, and then just give the thighs a little squeeze together. So imagine you're trying to really crush a walnut between your thighs. Just getting that action together so you can feel the glutes, hip flexor muscles and the adductor muscles engaging. And then releasing. So now, standing at the front of your space with your feet hip distance apart. And then taking right leg back and just coming onto the ball of your foot. And you're just going to do some weight shifting forwards and backwards. So as you shift the weight forwards, you might find the right arm naturally comes up. And then on the out breath, you're going to bring that foot back and it's going to bend because you're dropping weight into that heel. Now both arms might want to go up or one arm might want to go up. So I'll let you decide. So you breathe in, you rise up onto the ball of the back foot. And then as you breathe out, you land the back heel. And there's a little bit of a rounding in the back, so you feel the buttocks working. So again, inhale, rising up. Exhaling, dropping down. A couple more times. Okay, and then next time you shift the weight, you can just drag the right foot all the way. And then take the left leg back. And then same again. So breathing in, rising up. Breathing out. Rolling down. And last one. Just dropping back. So just going to do a little bit of birthing work. So standing. Now normally you would be standing in the middle of a room. You'd probably be holding the edge of the bed. You might be holding onto a table. If you were at home, you might do a bit of birthing at home. So holding onto the edge of the table or holding the top of the chair. Or even having your partner supporting you. So there's some quite nice moves that you can do with your partner where they're behind you and they're supporting you and you're leaning back into them. But for now, you've just got yourself. So we're going to work some figure of eights. So labour moves. So there are two ways of using your body. The first one are all the moves that you use in the first stage of labour, which is when you're waiting interminably for your cervix to dilate. So you're going to make a figure of eight with your hips, so shifting weight from side to side and drawing that figure of eight with your pelvis. The knees need to soften, so it's very much coming from your hips, not from your back or your legs. And then work with your Ujjayi breath again, so that ocean breath that we did right at the beginning. So again, one of the birthing breaths that we use. So this is really reinforcement for those of you that have been in the class for some time, but it's good to just reinforce this. So hip movements during contractions have a number of benefits. The first thing they do is that they reduce the amount of painful experience. So it's already you're listening, aren't you? Kind of makes the contractions less painful. It's not going to make all the pain go away, but it's going to reduce the sensations. It also gives you a feeling of being in control. So you're doing something, you're breathing, you're moving, you're in control, and that psychologically has a massive impact on women labouring. So now go the other way. So just when you've got a nice rhythm going, now I've got to try and get your brain to go in the opposite direction. Still with that slow, steady Ujjayi breath. The other thing that these movements do, particularly if you're upright, is that it helps your cervix to dilate. So women dilate a lot quicker, they get through labour a lot quicker in active labour, sorry, not active labour, active birthing, which is the name given to birth training that involves moving, which is basically what I do, so active birthing. So it basically means moving, breathing, being in control, and using lots of different postures and techniques to help you with your labour, as opposed to lying on your back and being immobile. So lying on your back and being immobile slows labour down, it makes labour very difficult. Not in every case, and some women birth fantastically lying on their back, but for most of us, you know, having these postures and these positions will make a considerable difference. Okay, and then just coming back to neutral. So we're going to come down onto the mat now. So you're going to bend the knees, slowly curl down, and then walk your hands forward. So last thing we're going to do is anti-cramp stretch. So take your right leg back out, come onto the ball of your left foot and push the heel away. Now keep pushing it away. Initially when you do it, it's going to feel quite tight. And the tighter this muscle is, the more likely it is that it will cramp in the middle of the night. So if you can stretch this muscle out before you get into bed every night, then it won't cramp. So just hold it for a little bit longer. And release. And then do the same on the other side. So the left foot comes into the floor, heel pushes away, and again, the tighter that muscle is, the more likely it will be to give you cramp. And then release. Okay, lovely. So for the last 15 minutes, you're going to lie down and have a long relaxation. So the best positions, if you're less than 20 weeks, then you can still lie on your back, providing it doesn't make you feel nauseous, or it doesn't feel breathless, or it doesn't hurt your back. Lying on your back before 20 weeks is absolutely fine. After 20 weeks, you're better off on your side. And it doesn't matter which side you go on, it can be right side or left side. You might want to kind of position yourself variously when you're on your side. If it pulls on your ligaments, then place your pillow underneath your bum, just to lift it up away from the floor. You might want to do that in bed as well, have a pillow under your bum, because when that bump comes over to the side, it can pull these ligaments and it can be quite sharp. If you've got any pain around your hips or your pelvis, you can place a block or a cushion in between your knees. And you might want a cushion underneath your head. So you need about 42 cushions or pillows to get comfortable when you're pregnant. So finding whatever position works best for you.